version anyway. We're currently paying 8.
But the big increase there is the program changeover costs. And that includes professional development as well.
I'd like to take a moment out and recognize a former member of the school committee who's not here, but somewhere, as we go past the student assistant counselor, he'll probably complain. So I'd just like to tip my hat to Brother Brennan, and I still support the student assistant counselor regardless of what he said.
We have not increased that amount.
Years are burning.
We forgot to break.
Yes. Because we used them while we were putting the budget together.
How would you just yeah, you have the happy one and the not so happy one. You have them both.
And would be the unhappy Bucky at the services.
We have our family.
We said we were trying to maintain services, beneficial services for students.
What is this for?
Now the only thing with the student assistance you brought up is that we have no assurance from the town that they will help support student assistance counselor.
And what do
They did not last year.
Not to play Bucky, but what do they do?
They do a lot of preventative work with students. They see students one-on-one. Our particular student assistant does do, she'll see some students once a week. She also does a lot of group work. She teaches them a program called Project Northland, which is part of the health component, which is also about making good choices. She organizes our whole drug awareness week in October with activities every day. She's connected to the teen center. She's very connected to our students, and she's part of the culture of our school, really. She's an important piece, and she's a confidential piece for kids to go to.
So my company's getting very involved in City Year, and it sounds similar to what they're doing for 6th graders in urban areas. Interesting. Cool. So I would
Former
support
student
it.
of mine, too.
Very good. Way to support her.
But just so you know that the 30,000 doesn't cover
3 days.
No,
not every
does
day.
it.
So when the town didn't cover
Well,
last year,
what
did we cover
happened
days?
is, through the task force, she actually took on some duties there, and they were in Laura, who had some stipend position, took hers out of there and gave it to Stephanie, so Stephanie was able to do that. And so they really helped us get through it. And we're going to depend on how much the state's supporting things next year, and but we have the 30,000, but it doesn't cover.
But we didn't contribute anymore.
So we may end up losing a day of our time, unless we can work something out again. Or maybe the town.
I think it's a discussion that may have more sympathetic ears this year.
Maybe, yeah.
So I think it's a discussion we can bring up. It's a valuable position. It is preventative.
Yeah.
It's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And in this case, this particular program I'm pretty familiar with. Stephanie and like I said, a former student. And this is one of those things where I think that it's going to do an awful lot more good. And the cost is more than worth it.
That's great.
This next page is probably where.
Page 7?
That's it.
No, it's not.
I haven't seen anything else.
We didn't, if you see something you'd like to know more about, we didn't see anything that we didn't feel the explanation or, it was a huge increase or decrease.
Well, I wouldn't mind just listening to your highlighted things, and I'd be more than happy to take this home and then come back with my questions.
Although, we didn't highlight something, and Lou is here, and I think that this number certainly credits him for all the work he's done with energy saving.
Yeah.
Lou, would you like to just explain the $14,000 reduction in the cost of heating oil and the reduction in electricity?
Well, with the heating oil, it's just a matter of being frugal and locking up thermostats and putting them on a set value and leaving them there and really getting used to it and working to make sure that the windows are closed and they're sealed tight and things are the way they should be. I did some insulation work in this building that I believe is working. That was just recently, so I don't think we've felt the fruits of that yet. But that's basically what we're doing, plus I felt that we could reduce it somewhat because of the price. I'm watching the price very closely. Every day we get a report, and I felt we could do it because of that. But we have saved some, and we didn't use as much as we had thought and we had in the past. As far as the electricity goes, I remember, I hope you remember when I came to you and I wanted to change all the light bulbs. I changed 3,000 light bulbs, which we were saving 4 watts an hour. And what ended up happening from the calendar year 08 to 09, in those, January of 08 to January of 09, when you go all the way down the line, we ended up in the Melrose building we saved 20,000 kilowatt hours. In this building we saved 16,000 kilowatt hours. So, and the lights that we changed in the gymnasium, all the things that we did, all those little small turning things off, all of the automatic switches in the rooms, in the gyms, in the multi-purpose room in the other building, that's what did it. So, it's
Well, I
worked.
think it could be revenue generating if we like rented you out to homes across the island.
And unfortunately, the reduction in the cost doesn't reflect the reduction in the kilowatt hours,
No.
because the cost per kilowatt hour went up.
Sure.
Right.
That's great.
Well, as I look through this budget, I mean, and the frugality that I see and the care and thoughtfulness that's gone into it, what's going to happen, there's going to be amounts that would have been much higher had attention not been paid. And I mean, we can look at this. This is a good one to look at, because we can say $14,000 less in heating oil, $3,000 less in savings of electricity, and it's just being wise and frugal and thoughtful and being aware of our environment and the taxpayers. But I think what happens is, if you look at some of these other figures, it could have been a lot. It could have been a lot higher. And had you not been doing zero-based budgeting, had been doing the due diligence. So anyway, keep it up.
And I think that because of all of the numerous lines that have been scrutinized and reflect real savings, we were able to include the increase for the technology coordinator without having
That's huge.
A budget.
And that was one of my big recommendations for our goals for this year.
The hardest part.
Transportation, this is spent a lot of time on these very small few lines the last few days. As you know, we went with the state transportation for out-of-district students this year. Last year we were budgeting, and we heard the words save money, and we were going to be on the next phase anyway. So we thought, we should try to save money and go with the state and share runs, because a lot of our buses, went out of district with very few students on them. It took a while for them to get everything going, and now we're seeing the projections, and the projections are looking like we are going to be spending more money than we had done it ourselves. We have been in contact with RIDE. They came down to see us. We shared some data with them. We were on a conference call with them this week. We're going to discuss numbers. They're going to tell us how they got their projection numbers. We're going to show them how we got our projection numbers, and they did say that they would make us whole. Not really sure what that means. Whether they'll make sure we don't go over budget, or we won't go over what we would have spent had we done it ourselves. So Gwen and I will be working with Cheryl, the head bus driver, to go over what we would have done had we had these same students this year with our current contract, get those numbers together, and we'll be meeting with RIDE and seeing what we can come up with. We also asked them if we could get out, because we think we can do it.